and we will try to keep it 30 to 40 minutes, not more than that. And people who are not able to continue, that's fine. Recordings are anyways available. But yeah, let's start the questions. Yeah, any questions? Oh, sorry. Hold on. I was supposed to tell you BW statistics in the post session. So can I not take your questions and touch the BW statistics, please? I want to cover that today.
Yeah, please.
I have one question.
Yeah, please.
Okay, let's take a couple of questions and then I'll start the statistics, BI statistics. Yes, go ahead.
Devanshu, like as we have been seeing, like PSA have been replaced with the inbound table where you have been changing the data, right?
Correct.
So if there is a
guys, people who are not speaking, can I request you to be on mute, please? Guys, I'm still hearing some feedback noise. Again, requesting people who are not speaking.
Understand that whether it's a second layer DSO and it will not allow us to change the records, or will it still allow us to change the records in second layer or third layer DSO?
It all depends on what type of ADSO there is. If your type of ADSO is a property where you have two tables, right, and it is a standard ADSO, it will allow. Yeah. If it is inbound table and active table, it will allow. If it is only inbound table, it won't allow. So based on the property of the ADSO, the system automatically knows that I have to allow or I don't have to allow.
Right. So if that be a second layer or a third layer DSO, like the data in previous versions, we can only change in the PSA, right?
Correct.
But now the DSO can be a second layer DSO or a third layer DSO.
Yes.
So then the system will allow us to change the data in those layers too?
Yes.
Okay.
It will. And usually what is the flow in LSA++? The usual flow is the first layer is the staging layer, and in parallel, there is another parallel flow which goes to the standard ADSO, which is integrated data warehousing layer, right? Now, the staging layer will not allow you because it will usually be field based and only one table, inbound queue only. And you're not supposed to change there because 1:1 with the source, you will violate that particular requirement. So that's why SAP has only given one table. But in the parallel flow to the integrated data warehousing layer, there usually the ADSO is standard ADSO, and there you will be able to edit the data like PSA.
Okay.
And if you have further target as data mart ADSO, say for example, right?
Right.
You will not be able to edit in the second layer.
No, how the system is understanding that?
On the properties of the ADSO.
Because that is also a standard DSO, right? It has got a change log table and inbound table.
No, data mart ADSO does not have change log table. See, there are different types of ADSOs, and based on the property, it will identify. See, for example, standard ADSO. Standard ADSO is in which layer? Integrated data warehousing layer, right? If you keep standard ADSO only, it will allow, because this is going to be your first layer.
Right.
Why it is a first layer? Because it is a parallel flow. You are not sending data from staging to your standard ADSO in LSA++ standard content I'm talking about. So it is still your first layer. Now, if it is your first layer, it will allow you. If you keep second layer also standard ADSO, again it will allow you.
Okay.
But if you keep a second layer as data mart ADSO, it will not allow you.
Queue property. Okay.
Queue property. It will not allow you.
Coding class
Okay.
India.
Okay, I'll have to mute them. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, Devanshu, I got it. Yeah.
Okay. Just one more question. Anyone? Any other question before I start the statistics? No questions?
Dipanshu, my question is, this is Devi. My question is regarding CDS views, and just I'm trying to understand chunks by chunks. And so what I understood is CDS views are the replacement of the normal views in like earlier.
Correct.
And the second
also
part,
HANA series.
Yeah, HANA series.
Yeah.
And as you said, right now SAP has delivered plant maintenance standard data source CDS views.
Correct.
So in
For
future, after
on-premise. For S4 HANA Cloud, they have released more. For on-premise, I think there is just plant maintenance and one more, if I'm correct, and gradually they are releasing for on-premise.
okay, in future, if they deliver for SD and MM as well,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
earlier we used to replicate the standard data source, and we used to do the data modeling further.
correct.
But have we, if they have delivered the CDS views on the
And
standard
data
data
source
source,
also.
okay, okay, so they will provide us the data sources as well.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay, I thought we have to create the
No,
data
no, 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 no.
sources.
And those data source, don't try to find it in S4. Those data source
Okay,
you will not find in RSA5. Those
okay.
data source you will find in BW site.
Okay, and even I'm still okay. I understood what is happening, but still I'm curious to know on which case, what is the main. I mean, I understood what are the special features are added for the CDS views, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand with the use cases. Means, what is the use of the creation on standard data sources? It's okay. For normal views, they have created the special features by giving the CDS views,
Yeah.
comparing with the normal DB views. But just on what I'm trying to understand is what is the use of creating the CDS views on the standard data sources?
What is the use?
I mean, use means
Means
what is
why they are replacing.
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, because right now the coding which happens, if you see the standard function module code, right? You
Yeah.
have to there is no code push down. Number one, right? And second thing is you have to write the SQL, the ABAP SQL in a very limited way. You cannot use unions. You cannot use DB view on view. You cannot use complex expressions. Those are not easily possible in the normal ABAP. Okay, but with this new syntax, you are able to write the complex expression in the select query itself, and then use that in the as a source of your data source. So that is doing two things. One is first of all, there is a code push down which is happening, which was not happening with the standard function modules. And second is it basically gives you more flexibility to do expressions, unions, to add semantics with annotations. If you want to expose it to, say, for example, Fury tile, how will you expose a standard CDS, standard extractor to Fury tile? Was it possible? No, it was not possible. So now with UI5, OData, and the open source technologies coming into picture, you cannot stay with standard extractor because they don't have the ability to be sourcing your Fury tile also and your BW also. But now the CDS view can act as a source for your Fury tile also, and also can act as a source for your BW also. So reusability is there. So basically, because you cannot stick with your proprietary fixed ABAP language, you have to open up to new technologies like UI5, HTML5, OData services. These are becoming industry standard. And if you don't have something which can comply with this, you will be lagging behind in the market. So that's why SAP came up with this new paradigm where it can cater to multiple new technologies, open source technologies, and BW also.
Okay. Thank you.
Devanshu, to add to that, this setup table concept also will be eliminated, right, at some point of time.
Correct, exactly. Setup table will be eliminated. As you saw that when we did the full load, we did not have to fill the setup table, anything like that. We just directly took it from the application tables.
So that directly impacts the quiet time and all, right? So
Oh
it's a
yeah, that's
big
a very
change.
good point. Very good point. Yes. So that hassles also will be removed.
But that's not available today, is what I.
No, not available today for on-prem. For cloud, it's available.
How is it? I mean, there are different CDS views for cloud versus.
I don't know. I have to check that if there are different CDS views or not.
No, I meant
cloud,
like you said that it is possible in cloud not to have the downtime at all.
No. I said downtime will be required in both cloud and your on-prem if you do a full load. To be safe, downtime is still required, but the setup table filling and all those things that layers will be removed. But downtime is still recommended, but I think gradually downtime will also go away. With CDS views, downtime will also go away. But CDS views on the cloud might be different than CDS views for on-prem, or they might be same. I need to check that. But on cloud, there are more CDS views now available compared to on-prem. On-prem is going slower as compared to cloud. That's the difference.
When it comes to embedded analytics, though, there's this, do the CDS views still need a data source to be created on S4 side?
No data source needed. But what you need is, you need a transient provider created, and then you can use it in a query if you want to use it in a query. But if you don't want to use it in a query, if you just want to use it in a tile, Fiori tile, say for example, then you have to make sure that, again, Fiori knows a language. It's a separate language. If your CDS view also knows that language, it can communicate. So you have to basically deal with annotations, different annotations. So for Fiori tiles, which is embedded analytics front end interface, you will need to make sure that an OData service is generated out of the CDS view, and how you will do it is again via annotations.
And to add one more point, Dibanshu, like previously in 2LIS, if you want to append any structure, right, any fields to be added, it's very time consuming process. But in CDS, right, extended CDS view, you can finish, right?
It is more convenient. You're right.
Yeah.
Yes, because then you have to use baddie, then you have to make sure you implement a class, and then in that class, then you implement the method, and then you have to write the code in that method. So it's a little bit of a cumbersome process. In CDS view, you just create an extension CDS view, which we will do in the upcoming class, and that will extend automatically the main CDS view. So all that logic you can write. So yeah, that part also is becoming more convenient now. Okay. All right. So now let's move to the second part of what I wanted to cover today, which is your BW statistics in BW4HANA, or BI statistics, or zero TCT in the past in BW4HANA. Okay. So how has it changed? How has that changed? So we'll quickly discuss a theory and then I will jump into the system. So statistical analysis is basically the standard content given by SAP for analyzing your data loading performance, analyzing your volumes, analyzing your query runtime statistics, how which query is taking more time, which queries are working fine, and then process change statistics. So if you want to analyze what's happening in your data warehouse, BW, this was given as a standard content. You had to activate the standard content. There were info cubes, there were virtual providers. You had to load the data from RSDD stat tables, and then you had to activate the queries and use the queries. That was how the things were done in the past. But now with BW4HANA, that paradigm has completely changed and everything has moved to CDS views in BW4HANA. These CDS views will not be in S4HANA. This is the CDS view in BW4HANA itself. Okay. So with the help of the CDS views, you can have virtual access, real-time access, no need to load data anymore, anywhere. These are CDS views, which in the backend, they are taking data from RSDD stat tables. So table wise, nothing has changed. Tables are the same. Source tables are the same. What has changed is the paradigm of from loading data to completely going virtual. So now in BW4HANA, your BI statistics are completely virtual based on CDS views. Okay. First thing you have to understand this. Then there is a SAP help link I have given, which will show you that what are the different statistics given, and for data loading, which CDS view you have, for volume, which CDS view you have, for process chain, query runtime, aggregated of level of query runtime, all that is given in the SAP help. So you can refer to that. Now, this is the diagram which will show you the difference between the previous setup and the new setup. So previously we used to have the tables. So tables is common. Nothing has changed. You can customize also from this T code RSDT stat. There was a T code and the RSDT stat star tables were also there. From there, we had to load the data in the info cubes. We had to activate the process chains, and then there was a virtual info cube, virtual provider based on the DTP, and then 0 TCT star queries were activated from the BI content, and that's what we got. Okay. Now the paradigm has changed from loading to going completely virtual. So we have ABAP CDS views, which is sitting on top of the RSDT stat tables. Then we have the analytical, that means the cube CDS view sitting on top of those basic CDS views. And then on top of the cube CDS views, we have query CDS views. Okay. So there are 3 types of CDS views, primarily actually 2 types of CDS views, which are of importance here. The one is called cube CDS view, and the second one is called query CDS view. Cube CDS views, they generate something called a transient provider, and they also generate the operational data provider. Both, they generate both transient data provider and operational data provider. Query CDS view generates analytic query. Okay, it does not generate a transient provider, it generates an analytic query. Okay, and that analytic query you can directly use in your RSRT or you in your Eclipse Query Designer. So that is the difference between previous setup and new setup. You don't have to activate them. They are come activated by default. You just have to start using them as it is. If you want to start using them as it is, you can use the analytic query generated, or if you want to create your own queries, then you can use the transient provider generated out of the cube view and then create your own query and then use it. That is if you want to keep things virtual. There is also a possibility that if you want to load the data for, say, for example, for a third party, you want to load the data in an open hub, and from open hub, you want to send the data to a third party. Then you have to create a data source based on the operational data provider, which is generated by the cube CDS view. And then you can put it in an open hub, and then you can send the data outside. So both are possible. If you want the access in BW4HANA, it's purely virtual. You use the analytic query or you create your own query. And if you want to persist the data and send it across to third party, it's also possible via creating the data source. So both we will see. So this is the basic difference. Zero TCT BI content is not available anymore in BW4HANA. Okay. And the new solution is not provided by BW4HANA content add-on, but it is delivered by support packages. So this CDS views is not part of your cont B or cont. Okay. It comes by default by the support packages of your BW. So in my case, what is a support package in my BW system? So if you click here, go to the properties, and in the property, you can see that my support package is, I think, SP4. So for BW, DW for core, my support pack is 4, support pack level. So this support pack, when you upgrade, new CDS views will be delivered. It will not be a part of content anymore. So cont and cont B, if you upgrade, don't expect new CDS views. Only when you upgrade the support pack, then you will get the new CDS views if they have delivered anything new. Okay, so it has been detached from the content and it has been attached to the support packages. Composite providers, SAP delivers a purely virtual data model only. Now it is no longer you have to persist. The VDM is based on ABAP CDS views, not HANA CDS views. These CDS views are ABAP CDS views. Okay. And the backend tables are still RSDT stat, but the whole reporting has gone virtual, pure virtual. The solution is rolled out in SAP BW4HANA support packages rather than content add-on. Starting from 7.5, you will find some first example based on the technical content. but they are matured and delivered properly with BW4HANA, not 7.5. You will start seeing some glimpse of it in 7.5, but fully matured and all of them will be available in BW4HANA only. And the info provider where you can see that is 20-BW4 in RSRT. Okay. It will all start with 2CRV. 2CRV means those are your transient provider. Okay. These are the transient provider. And this is the analytic query, which is based on the query CDS view. So please remember that the info area name is 20BW4. You cannot see the info area here in your Project Explorer. It will not be visible to you here. Where will it be visible? Only in RSRT it will be visible. So if you go to Control 6, create a new session for BW. Did I open BW ABAP? Yeah, let me open BW. So I'll open the BW. I'll go here. And now if you go to RSRT, let me minimize this. Just go to RSRT, and there what you do is you click on F4 help. Okay. And there you click on info areas. So if you click on info areas, you will see that there will be one info area which is 20-BW4. This is where your standard statistics content transient provider will sit. So you will see that you go to data management runtime. So under your 20BO4, go to a sub info area which is called data management runtime. Expand that. You will see runtime statistics. Expand that. Then you will have, these are all your transient providers. Okay, which are generated out of what? Generated out of which CDS view? Cube CDS view or query CDS view?
Query CDS.
No, Cube CDS view. Please remember the transient providers are generated out of Cube CDS view. Analytic query is generated out of query CDS view. Okay, and query CDS view uses the Cube CDS view. It is built on top of the Cube CDS view. So all this you are seeing are, this symbol is transient provider. Okay, and this will have the 2CRV. And if you just expand this, this is your analytic query generated out of the query CDS view. That is the difference. If you want to directly use the query, you don't want to create your own query, you can directly use this query and then execute. Okay, and then it might ask you for some parameters. Okay, this is starting the ABAP debugger. So I'll stop this. But this query you can directly use. Say for example, query runtime statistics. So it's going to debugging. Let me press F8. Okay, there was some exception, so it is not able to read it. But let me go to another one. So I will press, F4, and then I'll go to info area. And let me see if I can read something directly here. Go to data management, runtime statistics. I'll go to, say for example, query statistics. Okay, query runtime statistics. So expand that, query statistics, and let me execute. Let's see if this executes successfully. Yeah, so query runtime statistics, it will ask you for object name, username, info provider, info area, and then calendar day. Okay, so calendar day is I think mandatory. So if you just give the calendar day something here, I'll just give anything. Right now 1990, I'll change it to 2020. Okay, to say for example, I'll give, okay, 1231.
Devanshu, did you already configure this, or it's like?
No, it is no. That's what I'm saying. No activation required at all. No configuration required. No activation required. These will be by default activated for us.
Oh, very nice.
Okay. So nothing. Okay, value. I think it's 3112. Okay, let's see if the values are correct. Yeah, so you see immediately you will see the query runtime statistics. It's coming right away. This is all virtual. I didn't do any activation. I did not do any configuration. I just made sure I am on BW4HANA. support pack is close to latest so that I get all the CDS views. And this is my analytic query, which is directly I can use in my RSRT. No change required, no activation required, nothing. This is when I want to use the query as it is without any change. So if you want to use query as it is without any change, you will use the analytic query, which is generated out of the query CDS view. Okay. And if you want to check the CDS view definition, okay, so then you have to, what you have to do is you have to click on the ABAP project of BW and then press Ctrl+Shift+A. And then what is the, let's see, what is the name of the query runtime statistics? This is my query CDS view, which will generate analytic query. And this is what I want to check, this CDS view, because my analytic query is based on this CDS view. So I will click here and there you go. This is my CDS view. This is the DDL source file. This is my CDS view. So if you want to check the definition of the CDS view based on which the analytic query is generated, which you directly used in RSRT, you have to click on the ABAP project of BW4HANA. Make sure you select that. Ctrl+Shift+A to select the CDS view. And this is where you can see. You see, this query CDS view is based on cube CDS view. This guy. And this cube CDS view, if you navigate there, you will see that it is based on another CDS view. If you click there and navigate again, and there it is another CDS view, navigate again, another CDS view. So this is a hierarchy of CDS view, but finally it will take the data from RSDD stat tables. Okay. So I'll click.
Devanshu, analytic query, what is it? How is it different
There.
from the BW query?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So you see there, this is the final table, RSDD stat underscore OLAP. This is the final table. So query on top of the, sorry, CDS view on top of the CDS view on top of the CDS view. Like that we are going, and finally you will see that I will have the final table. So yeah, sorry, what was the question, Shikha?
I wanted to understand the analytic query. Is it, how is it, like we can run it from RSRT, but is it the same as a BW query? Can we open it in a BW query editor?
No, you cannot open it in the BW query editor. So the analytic query is different than the regular BW query in the sense that you cannot open it in the regular BW Eclipse query designer, but it is available to the front-end tools like your Webby is there, then your Fiori tiles are there, then your RSRT is there. So you can see from RSRT analytic query, and you can see the CDS view of that analytic query. So that's possible. And also that info provider will not be able to see. So info provider is only available in RSRT. So those are the things which are only understandable by analytic manager. And analytic manager comes into picture when you either go for RSRT or you go for any front-end tool which accesses the analytic manager. But when we do the development, we are not dealing with analytic manager. We are dealing with data warehousing service. That's why it is not visible there. But you have to understand the context or the structure of these BW statistics which is delivered. So as I showed you here in RSRT, guys, hold on to your questions. Let me complete the content and then we can go into questions. So then this RSRT will have all this particular transient provider generated out of the cube CDS view, and they will not have analytic query. And on top of cube CDS view, there will be query CDS view. So what is the difference? How you can see the difference? If this particular annotation is there, at analytics.query is true, that means this is a query CDS view. Okay. And then if you see this particular CDS view, which is the cube, if you navigate there you will see the data category as cube, the analytic data category as cube, but there is nothing called analytics.query is true. So this is a cube CDS view, which will be represented by this particular annotation. And this is a query CDS view, which will be represented by your query, the analytics.query true, and this query CDS view will be based on the cube CDS view. But they are both generating two separate artifacts in BW. This guy is generating analytic query, and this guy is generating transient provider and operational data provider. Two things it is generating. Okay. So if you see here, info area I have shown that how you can see that. So it has query runtime statistics, process chain statistics. These are the tables for query runtime. It is RSDT stat OLAP, RSDT stat header, etc. Process chain statistics, data loading, everything. That SAP help link which I gave, it has all the details. But I've also given you for your reference. Now, this is where you will see that difference, okay, between the query CDS view and your cube CDS view. So BW statistics, we know that it is delivered as ABAP CDS views, and CDS views can be directly consumed without any change by using the analytic query in RSRT. And it will have that annotation at analytics.query true, okay? And the default query will start with 2C. So you see here, the analytic query which I used here in RSRT, that query name is 2C, and at the end there will be Q. If you see at the end there is Q, that is analytic query. If you see at the end there is C, that is your transient provider. Okay. So view is interpreted as transient BW query and can be executed by analytical engine directly. So this is a transient query which is also called analytic query, which is generated. And it can be consumed by SAP Analytics clients like SAC, SAP Analytics Cloud can consume the analytic query directly. Lumira can consume, Analysis for Office can consume, and your BW RSRT can consume. So all these analytics client can read this analytic query directly. And also the view can leverage built-in functions like exception aggregation. All those exception aggregations, if you have, you can also do that. And then you can also leverage the hierarchies for display or as filters. So all those, OLAP engine or analytic manager functionalities are possible in these CDS views. So you see here, we have the basic CDS view, and then we had the hierarchy of basic CDS views. Then came the cube analytical CDS view, and then came the query CDS view. So it is talking to the data manager, BW data manager, or the analytic manager, or the SQL engine directly. So all of them can read the CDS view, different CDS views. And then if you want to do a loading based on this particular CDS views, then you have to create something called a data source, which is based on the operational data provider of the cube CDS view. I repeat, if you want to load the data from the CDS view into an open hub, say for example, then you have to create a data source. Where will you create a data source? You will create a data source in your Project Explorer. You go to your BW project, and then you expand the data source tree. And then you will find CDS view, ODP context CDS view. In that you will expand and select BW now, not S4, because we are now dealing with CDS views in BW. So you will expand this particular BW, and there you can right click. You don't need to select the component. You don't need to know the application component, because by default they will be blank. So if you expand that, they will all be blank. So no data source is created. So now you right click on this, you will say new, and you will say data source. So when you click on the data source, it is from the self BW. So make sure your source system is available, self BW source system. Then you will say proposal from ODP, operational data provider. We know that the data source, when we create, same thing we did for S4HANA CDS view also. The operational data provider is the source for the data source. And can please somebody tell me what is the name of the operational data provider? How do we identify the name of the operational data provider?
I-star.
The SQL view of the CDS?
Correct. Absolutely. Please remember that the operational data provider name will be same as the SQL view of the CDS view. So which CDS view I should open? So let me close this. First, is this is my query CDS view, this is my cube CDS view. Which CDS view will generate operational data provider?
Cube.
Cube.
Cube CDS view. So let's take the SQL view name. This is my SQL view name. I'll copy this SQL view name. I'll go here. And now I'm going to go to my data source, back to my ODS, ABAP CDS view of BW self, right click there, new data source. Where do I want to make the data source from? From the operational data provider. And what is the operational data provider name? This guy. So I should have something with the name, there it is. So this is the query statistics, which is my operational data provider from the cube CDS view. And click on next. I'll give this the name ZDS, and then I'll give query statistics, query statistics transaction data. So we'll add to favorites and click on finish. Now what I'm doing, I'm creating a data source based on the cube CDS views operational data provider. Now you can see extraction, same thing here. You can have a delta also, you can have a full, same thing, the generic delta what we dealt with. And then you will have the fields, which are the fields from the CDS view, which will give you the query runtime statistics, like what is the total second, minute, hour taken, what is the total time taken. And then you also have, of course, your ODQ change mode, ODQ entity counter that will be used for delta if you have delta. So you can click on Control F3, which will activate. And where did it come and sit? It came and it sat under data management runtime. In the RSRT also, the info area was what? Data management runtime. So all your data sources, which will take the data from your statistics CDS views, will sit under data management runtime application component. Okay, this is the one which you have to remember. So
Do we need data sources because they are virtual and we can directly query on them, or
if you want to send data outside of BW, how will you do that? Right. So usually what happens is, if there is a requirement to send data to third party, we will create data source, we will create a transformation, we will create an open hub and connect this data to the open hub and then send it to third party in case you require. But this is usually not required if you don't have to send, because right now it's pure virtual. So you can create your query, either you create your own query or you use the analytic query. Both are possible, right? But if you want to send the data, then this is how you will create the data source and send the data. Now, I showed you the analytic query if you want to use as it is. But I also told you there is a possibility that you want to create your version of query. You don't like all the details which are given in the standard query. You want to trim it down to only the important things or whatever you need. Then you will create your own query. Okay. And for your own query, what do you require? Transient provider. And which CDS view generates transient provider? Cube CDS view will generate transient provider. Please remember one thing. Let me write it down here. I think I have written it down. Okay.
Yeah, just before example you have written.
Oh, I have?
Yeah, just before the example. Yeah. Just before the example line.
Yeah, there are two approaches, standard queries. There are based on queries, create your own queries. Yeah, they were generated out of analytic CDS views, which are of type cube. So transient provider is generated out of your analytic CDS view, which are nothing but your cube CDS view. But your analytic queries will be generated out of your query CDS views. So right now we, okay, one more thing. The cube CDS view will also generate your operational data provider. So both it generates. Okay. So analytic CDS view of they are based on transient provider, create your own queries. Somewhere I have to write that, 1 second. Okay, I'll write it here. So we have to remember this, that your cube CDS view generates what? Two things. One is your operational data provider. Why it is used? for data source creation. If you want to load the data and send it outside. It also generates transient provider, okay, which you can see in RSRT. Info area is your.
Vanju, just above this statement that you're writing, it says a BAP CDS view for transient provider known as analytical CDS view. Is that right, or is that?
Yeah, analytical CDS view is cube.
Okay, it's one and the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, analytic and cube are one and the same thing.
I see.
Okay. Info area is, what was the info area? 2O-BW4. Okay. There you will find transient providers. And this is used for what? This is used to create user specific queries. Okay, so if you don't like what you are getting in the standard analytic query, then you will not use that. You will create your own query. Now, second is your query CDS views. Okay, that generates what? That generates your analytic query. Okay, and this is used for as it is reporting for BW statistics. So these analytic queries will be given for every area: process chain, your volume, query runtime statistics, etc. Okay, and this is built upon the cube CDS view. Okay, remember this. This is very important. If you remember this, then you will remember everything. Now, if you want to create your own query, what you do? You have to definitely create a query on transient provider, right? So how do you do that? So the way you do that is go to the BW repository and choose any ADSO or composite provider. So I will go to my info area. I'll just choose a composite provider, say for example, right? So where is my composite provider? There. Any composite provider, does not matter, guys. Okay, any composite provider or any ADSO, whatever supports a query generation, you can select there and you can say new query. Okay, now when you click on new query, remove the info provider on which you are basing this query. Okay, and select this box, search for transient provider, because this transient provider is the base for your query. And if you go back, what is the transient provider naming convention? The transient provider. The transient provider, say for example, for statistics will be this, ending in 2CRV underscore, no, not underscore, 2CRV C OLAP stat C. This is the transient provider which is generated out of this cube CDS view. This is of type cube. So the transient provider will be having a naming convention this. If you are not sure, just type, just go to browse, just say 2CRV, that's all. So if you just type 2CRV, you will see all the transient providers which are there as part, and then just type OLAP. This is your OLAP. So query runtime statistics, this is your transient provider, okay, for query runtime statistics, which is based on what? Cube CDS view. Now you can add to favorites and you can give any name, ZQ. Now this is my own query I'm creating, okay, on this transient provider. ZQ underscore, I will just select the name, underscore 001. This is my BW query runtime statistics trimmed. Okay, copy no, I don't require, just finish. And now what I will have is, I will have all the fields from that particular cube CDS view, which is also part of the transient provider. So now you are in the query. This is a query screen. If you go to info provider, whenever you deal with queries in BW4HANA, you have to select the info provider view. That's going to be the important view. Because info provider view is going to give you that BEX query like key figures, characteristics, data, variables, etc. Input parameters, whatever. Okay. So then in this, you can go to sheet definition, and then I will just put maybe, so in the key figures, we have time OLAP, time all this. So time front end. So I'll put in the columns time front end. I don't need all of them. Sorry. Where is my query? There. I will close this. Yeah. So I will need my OLAP time, and I will need my front end time. Say for example, I just want to check this. And then in the rows, I will have the info provider as that. And then in the username, I will add free characteristics username. Okay. And then I will just hit on S. I just want a trimmed version of the entire query. I don't want the query which is there as a standard. So this is my query which I created. Okay. It is saved. We don't have to activate the query. You just have to save the query. And now I will go here and I will go back to my RSRT. Where was my RSRT? There, you go back and now you type this particular name and then you execute, and now it will be the trimmed version of the query and you will get only the particular fields what you require. So this, I have created my own query. Still it is virtual, completely virtual. I have not loaded any data anywhere, but info provider wise, it is giving me and the total OLAP time and total front end time is this. I think this is in seconds or microseconds. So this is how you will create your own version based on the transient provider, which is generated out of Cube CDS view. So remember one thing, simple funda. As it is, if you want to use, go for analytic query. You want to create your own version, go for the custom query based on transient provider. And if you want to check the definition, you know how to check the definition of both the CDS views. This is my query CDS view. This is my Cube CDS view. And of course, what you can do is you don't want to go navigate from view to view to view to view to see the data and the table. Then what you can do is same thing what we did, right click on it, and then you can say open with, and then you can say dependency analyzer. That way this particular CDS view is built on what all different CDS views, and then the final base table, database table, you can see RSCD stat header, info, this. So all these are RSCD stat tables where the data is being coming from. You can also create, one second. You can also create your own CDS view of type cube and of type query in BW, and then use the transient provider generated out of that if you want. I repeat, you can use your own query runtime, the query view and your cube view, CDS view. You can create your own and you can use whatever fields you want from your cube CDS view into your query CDS view, and there you can generate your own transient provider. You can generate your own analytic query and you can use that. That's also possible. Okay. So this is how the statistics has been changed, and this is how the statistics has to be used going forward. Okay. And if you want to load the data from the statistics, then you have to create a data source based on the operational data provider created out of Cube CDS view. Okay, let me see if I'm missing anything here. Yeah, so these are all shown. Yeah, so one important thing is if you want to know there are some tables which will be helpful for you to identify the SQL view name from the CDS view name. So DDL source name is this, and which is the CDS view name, and then the SQL view name will be this. So either you can use DDL dependency table, or there's another important and useful table is RS ODP ABAP CDS view. RS ODP ABAP CDS view. This will also give you, if you pass SQL view name, it can give you the DDL source file name, or if you know the name of the CDS view, then you can pass in this and get the SQL view name, because SQL view name you will use when you want to use operational data provider. And of course, this link, you can go to the link for SAP Help, where it will show you that what is the query CDS view name, what is the cube CDS view name. It will also give you the name of the transient provider if you want to know the name of transient provider, and it will also give you the name of the analytic query. So based on this information, you can either use as it is or create your own out of the transient provider. And also advanced, if you want to go further advanced, you can create CDS view of type cube. Okay, you can probably take this as a reference and just trim the fields if you don't want on the fields, and then create the cube CDS view, activate it. Once you activate it, it will have the transient provider, and then you can create your query on the transient provider. Similarly, you can create your own query CDS view, which will be based on your cube CDS view, and then generate analytic query and use that also. So both are possible. Okay, so and there is a very good wiki link for CDS view based on, if you want to learn more about CDS views, how they are used in BW context. Okay, so BW info provider, what is the cube, how it looks like, what is data extraction, aggregation, what you can put, currency key figures, what you can put, then the data category of dimension, hierarchy. You were talking about the variables, right? The input parameters and variables, you want to check how they can be defined, so on and so forth. So you can do that all by referring to this particular wiki. This is a very good wiki which will give you a lot of information about CDS views, the annotations, and how you can use as a BW query or transient provider in BW4HANA. Okay, questions?
Devanshu, what is the rationale of a transient provider when you have a virtual provider? I mean, what is the difference basically?
Where is the virtual provider? We don't have anything called virtual provider.
So
In BW4HANA, there is nothing called virtual provider. Those are gone.
okay.
We have transient providers generated out of the CDS views. Please don't get confused with the transient provider of the past. That was something which was discontinued already. This transient provider is nothing but a metadata model or a cube-like structure, a multi-dimension model, which is required for your queries. Okay, so this is the transient provider out of CDS views. There is no virtual provider here. And then you have operational data provider, which is generated out of cube CDS view, which you can use for your extraction purposes.
Okay. And the second question would be, what is the use case of a delta scenario here? Because we are very much real time, right? So you showed some delta drop down somewhere.
Yeah, that is for extraction. See, there are two use cases for these CDS views. One is for reporting. One is for sending that data out to third party. Okay. If you are using just for reporting purpose, you don't need to extract any data. It's all virtual. It's available to you. You can start using it as it is. But if there's a requirement to send the data to a third party, you can activate delta. Delta meaning today, these are the number of queries, this much time it is taking. You send it to third party. So tomorrow, 2 new queries got added in BW. Okay. Now you need statistics for them also. So now the delta will pull the statistics for those queries and then send it to third party. Then day after tomorrow, 5 new queries got added. Then the delta will pick those and send it. So what is your use case? Reporting is your use case, or sending it to third party is your use case. Based on that, you will use either the real-time CDS views or extraction, where you will use delta.
Okay, thank you.
Devanshu, maybe I'm not making that jump from where we were. So you talked about ABAP CDS views. We created those today, right? And then here we're talking about CDS views, analytical,
ABAP CDS views. Here also it is all ABAP CDS views, Pramanjan.
Yes. So these are types of ABAP CDS views, basically, right?
That's right.
Is that okay?
That's right. And these types will be differentiated based on annotations.
Right. Okay. And I don't think we, I mean, you kind of showed the analytical CDS view when we created the custom analytical query or the CDS view for that. But then we didn't actually go into that detail. Is that the extent of it, or you're going to show more later on this?
You mean to say the custom CDS view?
Yeah.
Yeah. We created a CDS view, a very basic one for the header, but I'm going to create another one which will be for the item, and there we will see more details, like more annotations will be added for delta. Then field element annotations will be added for currency fields and units and so on. So we'll go a little bit more on that. But this is something slightly different than what we will do for our extraction. This is cube versus query CDS views, right? We are not going to use cube CDS views for our S4 HANA extraction. There the fact itself is good enough, because I don't need to create any transient provider there. I just need to create an operational data provider, and both cube and fact creates operational data provider. Cube creates an additional object which is transient. I don't need that. That's why I did not use cube. But you can use a cube CDS view also as an S4 HANA extraction, possible. As long as the CDS view is having the necessary annotations to generate the operational data provider, you can use it. Doesn't matter if it's a cube or a dimension or a fact, it just should have the necessary annotations, and then you can use that. Okay, and one last question from my side was, when we created the ABAP CDS views today, right? So you showed, I think there was an option to do a delta also. Yes, that's what we are going to see to next session. Okay, okay. Right now we just dealt with full. Okay, unfortunately the time ran out. Right. But next session we are going to deal in detail with delta also. And delta also, there are two types. One is using ODQs, one is without using ODQs. So first we will see without using ODQs, then we will go into with ODQs. Okay. Are there use cases specifically for delta versus full? I mean, at a high level, you might not need to go to too much detail there, but where would you use a full versus delta? We will use full versus delta when the volume is huge. Yep. See, for master data, you can do a full every time, no problem, right? Okay. But when you're talking about AC Doka based data, you cannot do a full every time. That's going to be very heavy. Okay. I mean, even on HANA, there is that same restriction. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Okay.
How do we create
HANA is not a silver bullet. Let me put it this way. HANA will make things fast, very fast, but you still have to maintain that best practices, and for delta is one of them.
How do we create custom transient?
By creating custom CDS view. So what you have to do
create
is
the custom CDS view, then you take the transient provide.
Yes, exactly.
Right? But how do we create the custom transient provider? How do we attach the custom CDS view to the custom?
Let me show you that. So we are in BW4HANA's ABAP project, okay? Because CDS view has to be created in the ABAP. So in the local package, I'm going to create under me, okay? I will create new ABAP DDL source file. First thing is what? DDL source file. So go to core, you will see data definition. Click on next. It's going to be on $TMP, which is fine. Now I'm going to create a CDS view. Okay. I'm going to create Z CDS underscore BW query query statistics, and this is of type cube. So I'm ending with C. I hope it is within 30. I think it is within 30. Now I'll say BW query runtime statistics. Okay. Click on next. Transport request not required because this is $TMP. So click on next. Then same thing, you have define view entity. So I'll just do define view, finish. Okay, so it brought me, now I'm BW. This ABAP CDS view I'm creating in BW. Okay, so SQL view name I have to give. So I'll just give this SQL view name. So I will remove the underscores and I'll just say ZV. Okay. Okay, there's a SQL view name. I think it is within 16, so which is fine. Now here, what I will say is, this is my @analytics dot data category is cube. Okay, because cube generates what? Transient provider. So I will just say define view this as what? Select from the data source. So we can create a direct table also if you want. So say for example, I'll give rsdd stat. What else we have? rsdd stat OLAP. Okay, so OLAP has these fields. This is query runtime statistics. Now I will insert everything, insert all elements. I don't require all elements. Event related things, I don't require all the events. Say for example, I will remove, right? Username, step type, I don't require. Step count, I don't require. I will remove them. I'll trim it. I'm basically trimming it. Info provider, object name, object property, stat level also I don't require. Okay, so this is my custom CDS view in BW4HANA of type cube. So this has to generate what? Transient provider and what? Operational data provider. Okay, so do a Control S to check whether it's fine. Control F2 to check whether any syntax error. Warnings is fine. You can ignore the warning. That's fine. Control F3 to activate. So what I'm doing, I'm directly accessing the table, creating the CDS view, and the data category is cube because I need what? I need transient provider. So this definitely would have generated a transient provider. So transient provider with this ZCDS BW query stat C, what will be the name? 2CRV something, and then this naming convention will follow. And also for the operational data provider, I need the SQL view name. So let's see if it generated the operational data provider and the transient. Now what I will do, I will go to Project Explorer. And now on top of this transient provider, I have to create a query, right? So I have created the CDS view. I have given that category cube. Now I'm creating query. So for query, I'll go here. Any composite provider or ADSO, create query. Okay. Now remove this. Search for transient provider. Browse. Okay. And then you will say 2CRV. And what is the name for our CDS view? Guys, what is the name? The window is blocking the name. 1 second. Yeah, there. So I'll click here. 2CRV, then BW object 2CRV. This. To CRV transient provider. Are you able to see the transient provider?
No. Devanshu, should not it be 2C then the SQL view name?
1 second. What is the naming convention these guys are following? The SAP. I think you are right. Probably it's the name.
It is just appending 2C before the SQL name.
2C. Oh yeah, the SQL view name. It is appending 2C and the SQL view name. Yes, you're right. Sorry. So transient provider name should be 2C and this one. Not CRV. My bad. There you go. So this is the transient provider created out of the CDS view of type cube I created. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to add two favorites, ZQ. So that is the naming convention of the transient provider. Please remember, just append 2C to the SQL view name, and that is your transient provider. And what is the operational data provider? The SQL view name. That's it. So if you append 2C, it becomes transient provider. If you don't append, it will be your operational data provider. So I'll give the same name. Okay, 001, and I'll give the description again. BW query runtime stat, and then you click on finish. So now this is a query which I am creating based on the transient provider, which I created from scratch. So now you go to the info provider view, you will only see the filter in the sheet definition. So you will see this transient provider key fields are there, which is the key fields. Okay, let me go back to my, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 key fields will be there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 key fields are there. Data fields is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 will be there. It should have only 6 data fields. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. 7 are there, but I think info provider name, maybe info provider name is there. Yeah. So this is basically the same. Yeah, there runtime. So key figure is there. I didn't count the key figure. So there we have the total fields coming from our transient provider. And now I can just say I want the runtime here in columns, and I want the info provider or the username, maybe info provider and username if you want, and then just save the query. And this is all happening virtual. I'm virtually accessing the data from the stat tables. Okay. And then I'll just do a data preview for this. And I'll have the data preview here, the runtime. So this is the next level, meaning you create your own CDS view. Then you make sure it is of type cube. And then you generate your transient provider. Automatically it will be generated. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, if you go to the RSRT, go to the RSRT.
Yeah, in RSRT also you can see that. Sorry, where was that RSRT? Here. So in the RSRT also, now if I go to F4 and if I go to info areas and I go to my 2.0 and then data management runtime, and here where is that my transient provider? Let me see. 2C, and what was the name? Sorry, 2C ZVBW. I think 2C ZVBW should be here somewhere. Can I do a find? Let me do a find. This. There you go. So this is the query runtime statistics which I created on top of the 2C. So I can select that, which is based on my particular transient provider 2C ZV and then the query name. And in you can execute this in RSRT also, which will give you the same result as we saw in the data preview. Okay. Also, you can parameterize it. If you want to parameterize it, you want a variable, say for example, right? So you can parameterize it. So in my CDS view, if I want the username as my parameter, so you have to say define view this. I think this parameter question was asked by Suman yesterday. So with parameters, okay, and then I will write a parameter p underscore u name, and that will be of type abap.char, length maybe 30. I'll give username should be 30, good enough. Okay, and then in the where condition, I can put a where condition where I will say my u name is equal to my parameter up underscore uname. Okay, so I'll click on Control F3. If you parameterize your CDS view, okay, and if you create that as a part of cube, the transient provider will have automatically a variable will be added to this particular transient provider, and your query, analytic query, will also have this particular thing. It should have now as a variable. So let me go back and let me go to my RSRT, and let's see if I let me come back, okay, just to have a refresh screen. Now the query which I created, I don't know if it will by default it will prompt me. Let's see. It's going to debugger, maybe because of the parameter, and we'll press F8 and we'll come out of the debugger. F8. Yeah, see, yeah, there is some issue with that. So what you have to do is, when you parameterize in the analytic query. So in the analytic query which you create the CDS view for the query CDS view, try to put there the parameter, not here in the cube. Maybe because it is creating a problem here. And let me refresh this. Let's see if I can get that parameter.
We need to create the variable here.
No. Even without that, yes, you're right. We can create that variable, but even without that variable, it prompts me for the analytic query. So let's do one thing. What I'll do is I will remove this parameter from here. Okay, I'll remove this. Let me put it here. It should prompt me without that thing also. That's the beauty of the query CDS view. Cube I have not tried, but query CDS view I have seen it working. So we'll keep it as it is. Parameter, this one also I will just put it handy. Okay, so we'll activate this. Let this be. Now I'll create an analytic query, and there I will create the parameter. Okay, Control S, Control F3. Okay, so now this is activated, this is fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another CDS view. Okay, the data definition, new data definition, and I'm going to give this the name Z CDS stat underscore C. Instead of C, I'll give Q. Okay, which is the query, because this is going to generate the analytic query, and the naming is the same, BW query and time statistics. Next. Let's click on next, define view, which is fine. Now I'm going to use this particular cube view. So I will just say from this cube view, copy, go here. Okay, now first let's put that @analytics.query is true. This is going to create my analytic query. So I'm going to go define view as select from which data source, my cube data source, the cube CDS view. Now here I will use parameters with parameters. Okay, I think I have it handy there. Okay, and select from, I'll insert all elements. So I'll insert everything, and I will use that where condition. Okay, that's it. So I'm using everything. I'm not trimming it. You can further trim it if you want, but I just want to show you that this. Oh, sorry, SQL view name I did not give. My bad. So I'll give the SQL view name. SQL view name for this guy, I'll just use this and just type Q at the end. Okay, Z BW query, yeah, okay. Now I'll click F3. So this is activating my query CDS view, meaning an analytic query will be generated. And if you go back to naming convention, the analytic query is also 2C and the name of the SQL view. So this is my SQL view. So it is activated successfully. This is my SQL view. Now I will go to RSRT directly. Okay, let me go back. An analytic query name will be 2C and then SQL view name. There you go. So analytic query is automatically generated. Now if you execute this, they should throw me a variable if I'm not wrong. There you go. So variable is automatically prompted to you. Okay. In cube view, it was not working. I have to check because I haven't used it with cube, but I have used parameters with query CDS view. So this one, if I give my name, the user ID, which I'm using, I'll just check if it's okay. And then it will, so I don't have any runtime statistics right now. So that's why it's not giving me. But if you have a user who's executing the reports frequently, if you want to check that, then you can have the parameterized. So this parameter, I did not create a special variable. That is the beauty of the query CDS view. If you just give parameters and use it, the parameters in the where condition, it will automatically create a variable for you in the query. Okay.
So what exactly is the difference, Devanshu? The query creation and here we don't create any query. That's the only difference.
That's the difference. So the difference is if you want to use the standard analytic queries given by SAP as it is without any change, go for analytic queries. If you want to use your own query by trimming the unnecessary fields, then you go for the transient provider, create your own query based on the transient provider. Okay. So this is how the BI statistics will work in BW4HANA.
Yeah, most of the questions are answered while you're doing this. I have one question.
Yes.
So when we use cube, are we doing some aggregation as part of that?
We are not.
What we are using?
We can. For cube,
no,
you can put
by mentioning cube itself, it's aggregating it. I mean, why it's transient provider?
Why it's transient provider meaning? I didn't get the question.
It isn't storing any
cube. By saying cube, we are saying that
we can directly use basic CDS view, right? In a query. Why we are providing it as a cube and then using it?
Because cube CDS views will generate your transient provider. How will you create a query?
That is my question.
You cannot create your query on a basic CDS view here.
No, maybe yeah, okay.
You have to have a transient provider if you want to create your own query. If you create a basic CDS view and if you try to find that in transient provider, it will not give you any transient provider creation because it doesn't generate a transient provider.
Yeah, okay.
That's the reason. And of course, with cube, you are right. Aggregation behavior automatically comes, and you can, trim. If you trim the fields, it will aggregate based on the remaining fields.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So Devanshu, like the difference of basic and composite and consumption, these CDS views, how does that matter then?
That does not matter for a BW. That does not matter. From a BW standpoint, that does not matter. From a BW standpoint, what will matter is whether it is a cube CDS view or whether it's a query CDS view or whether it's a simple CDS view without any cube or query, but it is a fact or dimension with appropriate annotations. That's all it matters. It can be I, it can be C, it can be the basic. Doesn't matter from a BW standpoint. When you are working with embedded analytics, that's where it will matter, your I and your C. Because if you want to use a standard analytics based on the standard CDS views, you have to make sure that the annotations are there. Annotations are, as long as the annotations are there, which is usually there in either I or C consumption, you will use that. But from a BW standpoint, it does not matter. What matters is the different annotations, which is cube or your query or your data extraction, data category. And then for delta, you have 4 further more annotation, which we will discuss in the next class.
And what was the just difference between fact and cube? These two.
Fact does not generate any transient provider. Cube generates a transient provider. And for in cube, you can also change the, I think, aggregation behavior with the certain annotations. But in fact, it is just a transaction data.
So why we use fact? I mean, we could skip it.
Yeah, you can skip it. As I said, you can use cube also, right? And you can use dimension also. All these things with the annotation, two annotations, data extraction and data category, will generate your operational data provider. As long as you have the operational data provider, it doesn't matter if you use cube or fact or dimension. But if you use dimension, you cannot use a key figure there. It has to be master data. If you have a key figure of quantity or amount, then you have to go for fact.
Okay. So, but we can even skip the fact thing, and we can create our ODP kind of thing for extraction, right? So,
yeah, you can.
A fact is not necessary. Means cube is necessary for transient provider. Dimension is necessary for, say, master data extraction. Or
No. You cannot skip the data category. See, if you are saying that I will not give any data category, then your operational data provider will not get generated. So data category and data extraction both are mandatory for the operational data provider. You cannot just say that I will skip that. It has to be either fact or dimension or cube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Means I can always give cube. So why
you can alter it. You can use cube, or you can use fact, or you can use dimension. With data extraction enabled true, right? That will generate operational data. But you cannot skip that part. No.
Okay, means I was thinking why we should not give it always cube, and why should we give it fact? Like what is the difference between them? Means obviously I know with cube we can generate the transient info provider, and with fact we cannot. But then why always we should not use cube then?
Why to unnecessarily create something which you are not going to use? It is less heavy on the system. Cube CDS views are more heavy on the system because the system has to maintain transient provider. It has to maintain the necessary tables for the transient provider, populate that. If you're not planning to use, then why to unnecessarily burden the system?
Okay, got it. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, guys. So it's 12:15. We are over time, way over time. So if you have any other questions, we'll discuss in the next class. Next class, we are going to continue on CDS views, but delta based on CDS view. And that's where we'll stop. And then we will switch to BW side and we'll deal with BW models and all. Okay.
So Devanshu will not discuss this basic composite consumption, these CDS views, right?
No. This course is not geared towards embedded analytics, Suman. This course is geared towards necessary knowledge for a BW consultant to work with CDS views. And that part I will definitely cover. The full delta, the necessary delta annotations, full annotations. I'm not going to go deep into embedded analytics CDS views.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for attending session. I will share the recording and I will talk to you next weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.